Hey everyone, this is Julia Barbaro, host of the Julian Gino podcast. I'm here with the co-founder of Jake and Gino, my husband and co-host, Gino Barbaro.
Julia?
Yes.
How are you doing today?
Amazing. I'm so excited for this episode.
Let's jump into today's show. Today, we're welcoming JP Sears to the show. JP's ability to take serious topics in today's culture and turn them into funny clips is a real talent. And his 3 million followers on YouTube agree. I don't know if his mother agrees, but I'm sure his YouTubers agree. His reach has resulted in massive amplification of his message, unapologetically standing for freedom, fun, and encouraging people to free themselves from fear. Welcome to the show, JP Sears.
Julian Gino, thank you for having me on. And just in case your listeners and viewers aren't aware, I just want to share something about you guys. I mean, you come across so pleasant right now, but before we were on air and recording, it was just beautiful to watch you guys yelling at each other, screaming at each other. I mean, Gino, you were pulling Julia's hair. She obviously deserved it. So I love how you guys are able to go from just domestic disputes to like pleasant podcast hosts just as soon as you hit record. So
JP,
I admire that.
Yeah, it's a gift. I just want to say it's a gift.
25 years, a quarter of a century. I've got a lot of practice doing this. So, you know what I mean? Just turn it on and turn it off, my friend.
Absolutely. We have to show it in front of the kids. We got to teach them to hide their feelings.
And to lie, I guess,
and to lie and to pretend like everything's okay all the time.
Let's jump right into it. You're launching a book, Chomp Chomp Chomp. Let's hold it up for the YouTubers out there. And yes. I know everyone says, why'd you write the book? But really, why did you write the book?
Yeah, it's a great question. And this is a kid's book. And I wrote the book, I think something that's indisputable that we can, if you're kind of engaged with at least a little bit of common sense, we know there's a massive problem out there, which is all these dangerous ideologies that are designed to infect the minds of our children, whether it's the gender ideologies or critical race theory, teaching kids to be racist under the guise of you're anti-racist. Teaching kids to obey rather than follow the beautiful guidance of their heart, their mind, even God. So without a doubt, there's that problem. So I think two things have to happen. One, we need to protect kids from those dangerous messages that are disguised as empowering for kids. The devil masquerades as an angel in disguise. So not only do we need to protect kids from those, but we also need to provide positive solutions, alternatives to kids that instill good morals, pro-America, pro-freedom, pro-God, pro-follow your heart, follow your own mind, do your own thinking messages. So this book is one of my contributions to that. And a second reason why I wrote the book, if there was only one message that me as a father could instill in my little boy, who's almost 3 years old right now, just one message, it would be this: do your own thinking, be in touch with your heart, and have the courage to follow it. So that's embedded in the book because I wanted to give the most important message that I want to teach my son. I wanted to give other families around the world an opportunity to see that in book form through an entertaining, engaging kid's story with awesome illustrations. So that's why I wrote the book. And lastly, the book is on the topic of peer pressure. You see the main characters suffer the consequences of betraying her own thinking, her own heart, succumbing to peer pressure. And then you also get to see the beautiful consequences of the main character learning to resist peer pressure in the name of being true to herself and what she knows is right. So peer pressure, that became a really important realm for me. And I know a lot of people, wow, peer pressure, that's like a kid's message as old as time itself. But if you look around the past 3 years at adults in this world, we see succumbing to peer pressure left, right, and center. And what it's looked like with adults in our world, obedience. So I don't think anybody's going to have true happiness, a meaningful life, and a sense of purpose if they're succumbing to peer pressure. They're just going with the herd, being obedient. So that doesn't mean be a defiant jerk. It just means, no, do your own thinking and follow your own heart. So seeing the past 3 years, the world has demonstrated so many people didn't get this message as kids. And our kids today, I think they have it way rougher than we probably did when we were kids, because there's just like a lot of dangerous ideologies, left, right, and center, designed to invade the minds of kids. So I love kids. They are, I mean, not like a Biden, but I love kids in the normal, like loving human kind of way. They are precious. They are miracles from God. And along with being precious, they are innocent. They are vulnerable. They need healthy-minded adults to protect them and provide positive messages in entertainment form, amongst other things. So that's why I chose to write the book, Chomp Chomp Chomp. And also, shameless plug, if anybody would like to check it out, I would be honored. You can get it at bravebooks.com.
There's no such thing as a shameless plug. We're capitalists here. We want you to make money on the book. Okay, we're not like Biden either. We want capitalism. We don't want democratic socialists. And one other thing you need to tell your son Wilder: don't be like Julian Gino. Don't beat up your wife. Okay,
That's
you
true.
don't want to do
That's
that.
a good
right?
message.
So
I teach them that every night before bed.
Now, when was your awakening? It's Awaken with JP. Can you have a specific moment in your life, that epiphany that you said, I'm on the wrong path here? I'm doing things wrong, or I have the wrong mindset. When was that?
Well, I'll give you 2 or 3 answers. I think awakening, it's a journey, not a destination, but there's pinnacle points on the journey.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll also be the first to say, I've got a heck of a lot more awakening to do, yet I've made progress compared to where I used to be. So my YouTube channel, Awaken with JP, I actually coined that name before I was doing comedy. I was doing life coaching, health coaching, helping people follow their hearts, heal trauma, heal pain that was holding them back. So that the term Awaken with JP came long before I was doing comedy. I just wanted to help awaken people to their own minds and hearts. So with my personal awakening, I would say it started in, let me call it July 2001. I would have been, I just turned 20 years old. And that's when I first met a man who became a powerful mentor in my life, a guy named Paul Chek. I was taking these exercise, nutrition, holistic health classes from him. And he was very deep and certainly looked at things, human health and the world, and realized nothing is as it seems. So he got me thinking in ways that, and perceiving things and myself in ways like I never imagined. So that was like first phase of my awakening. And then there was another huge, I guess, road marker in my awakening, which was the spring of 2020. Now, Gino and Julia, I'm not sure if you heard, but we had a pandemic in spring of 2020.
We live in Florida. There's no pandemic in Florida.
I know. That's why I didn't think you guys would have heard of it. It was really nuts. People were, just living, mostly living. So it was super deadly. No, not to discount. I know some people had challenges with it. But when I started to, after a couple weeks of this thing going on, doing my own thinking from my perspective, I start realizing this pandemic is not about a virus. We're seeing freedoms being eroded. We're seeing censorship. We're seeing tyrannical orders. Stay in your home, wear a mask, put the masks on children, no school. And, here's this shot, like, take it. So, I'm realizing this isn't about a virus. I'm seeing these tyrannical patterns, freedoms being eroded. And I know a little bit about history, so I know where these tyrannical patterns will go if we allow them. So that was the first time in my life that I saw, as an American, freedoms getting eroded, the Constitution being treated like toilet paper by the very people who are supposed to be protecting and preserving the Constitution. That woke me up to realize freedom is my number one value. I didn't know that before. because, a fish doesn't know it's swimming in water. And I'm not proud to say it, but it's true. So I'll be honest. Before that, when it comes to the beautiful God-given gift of freedom that America is built to nurture, I was entitled, I was ignorant, and I took freedom for granted. So I woke up and realized the reality of, like, one, freedom is under assault, and two, freedom is not something you take for granted. It's something that you need to actively stand for. So that was a big point in my awakening. And with my professional work, the comedy, the videos, the stand-up, I had never done anything on politics before. I wasn't really into it at all. But freedom became a political issue in the United States of America. The country I thought we lived in is like, both sides agree on freedom. This is the USA. But all of a sudden, freedom became, a value of the right, and the left, particularly the radical left. They were all about taking freedoms away in the name of protecting you. So that was a big, meaningful point in my awakening.
It's amazing that you're talking about the past right now, because every time my husband talks about this pandemic, you're talking about, I don't want to hear it anymore.
I get triggered.
I got so
yelled
angry.
at. I got yelled at for wearing a mask, and the 7 other members of my family weren't, and I'm the one getting yelled at.
Well,
and I want to punch somebody because it's like,
I think I did good with
So you're getting
teaching
triggered
the
already.
kids critical thinking, and I
Yeah.
think that's the key here, and that's your message too, is that we do, and it's ongoing, because that happened already, but we have to not forget about it, and we do have to teach our kids and our spouses and each other, all the adults in our world, that it is ongoing, and we need to be bold, and we need to stand up for what's right, and we need to protect our freedom, as you're talking about. And that's obviously why you wrote the book, why Brave Books is out in the world, which we just signed up for, by the way. So thank you.
Congratulations. I can't wait to see your book that comes out.
Listen, JP, real quick, you had put something about a month or two ago about the pandemic coming back with the masks, and that was a blip on the screen. Do you see it coming back soon again with this whole mask? We already know masks don't work. And the fact that people critically think, and if you want to wear one, I'm okay with you wearing one, but please don't tell me to wear one. I think that's where the average American stands. And I love the videos you did. Do you see it coming back, and how can we fight it once it ultimately does come back?
It's a good question. Part of me actually hopes it comes back, because I'd be curious about the results of the social experiment. How much obedience would there be compared to 3 years ago when it was initiated? Because the past 3 years, so many people have woken up to, like, all right, this isn't about a virus. The masks, like, scientifically speaking, don't work. And there's top-down tyrannical orders here. So I'd be curious about the results of that social experiment. I would predict we would see far less obedience, and that would be a beautiful middle finger into the face of the tyrants. And of course, another big part of me hopes it doesn't come back. But to my prediction, I already see it coming back in a sense. I'm in airports all the time. I'm typically 2 weekends a month. I'm on the road doing comedy shows. And, airports, you kind of people watching. And I would say the past year, you see people in airports with masks. I mean, some people very dedicated to the cause, never gave it up.
2, 3, you got a couple strapped on. Yeah.
12 masks on, you'll be extra safe and super stupid. So I would say the past year, I would estimate about 5% of people in airports have masks on. But the past month or so, when some of these murmurings came back out about, like, hey, there's this a viral strain in Canada that's going to be making a comeback, and news broke about the Biden administration is going to be reinforcing airplane mask mandates, and then by December, the full lockdowns are going to be back. By the way, there's an election coming up. That's weird. So now I see in airports the past couple of weeks, I would estimate about 10% of people are wearing masks. So it seems like that's taken an uptick. And around the country, there's also been several school districts who have canceled in-person classes. Not many, but there has been some, and some colleges I've read have reinstated mask mandates. So we already see it coming back. Yet what we haven't seen is, governmental enforcement. I certainly hope that doesn't come back. I'd be kind of surprised if it doesn't. I mean, it just doesn't seem like they're willing to give up this method of rationalization for controlling people. And I hope I'm wrong, but I would predict they're gonna, do their best to reinforce some of the tyrannical stuff.
How do you deal with the peer pressure on you're talking about peer pressure for kids, but you get on and you make these videos and they're controversial for some. How do you deal with all the negativity and the hate and having to do it day in, day out? And I know part of your reason is your why and your strong beliefs in what you're doing, but how do you get through that? It's got to be challenging for you.
Yeah, it was in the beginning, like 3 years ago when I started making, I'm like pro freedom, anti lies and corruption, and I was surprised, like, why is that controversial? So it was a little tough in the beginning because I had fear, and the fear was I could lose parts of my audience, and it could be bad for business and bad for viewership. Turns out it's actually the best thing I've ever done for business. My audience really started growing fast, and I won't claim to be smart enough to say, like, I took this stance so it would be good for business. No, I took the stance because I was following my heart. I thought it'd be bad for business. But here's the thing. Like, I would say, to the best of my knowledge, after the initial first few weeks of doing this a few years ago, I'm not affected by the negativity. And I don't say that with indifference or just I'm in denial. I say that as like, well, that's true for me. I'm not affected by it. And a couple things help me with that. First off, I don't go looking for the negativity. You guys produce content and you realize if you go into the comments section, you're going to see a lot of support. But the 1% of nasty comments, those can register with more impact than the 99% of support. So I don't spend much time in the comments section. It's kind of like, if you're if you don't like getting stung by bees, don't hang out by the beehive. So that practice, I think, is very important for the peace of mind of myself and really anybody else who puts out purposeful content online. But I will also say this, because of course I do see some negativity, whether it's like, hey, JP, you're not as funny as you used to be, or JP, you're a far right extremist. I'll see some of those comments, even though I'm not looking for them. Also, what was a few months ago, and I say this from my heart, the leftist degenerate media organization called Vice News, they wrote a big smear piece on me. They've written a few on me, but one came out of
fun. I like that.
And I read the article. I knew it was coming out because they reached out to me for comment, and I'm like, I'm not giving you a comment. You're not going to frame it in a truthful way. So I was looking for it because I knew it was coming out, and I read it, and man, I was just so amused by it. And how I frame that in my mind is, if I'm being smeared by like a kind of corrupt media organization, that tells me I'm doing something right. Or if I'm being smeared by someone who suffers from mass formation psychosis, that tells me I'm doing something right. It's actually for me, it registers as a positive. But lastly, I'll say how I deal with negativity so that in a way where it doesn't affect me. And if anything, it probably fuels me. I have my priorities straight. I know what matters. What matters to me: my family, my son, my wife, having a purpose, being kind to the people around me, doing my best to have a positive impact in the world. So when you know what really matters, what doesn't matter, you don't really mistake that as something that matters. So what doesn't matter? People's approval. We grow through grow up through childhood thinking approval is gold. And some of us never grow out of that. But approval, while it might look like gold, it's actually a very worthless currency. People's approval, at best, it gives you a dopamine hit for between 1 and 5 minutes. You feel great. But if you're addicted to approval, you're also going to be addicted to people's disapproval. So to the degree that you think people's approval really matters to you, that's how impacted you'll be by negativity. So, I'm 42 years old. I'm a father. That's helped me have things in perspective. Now, if I was 32 or 22, I'd probably be negatively affected by haters online or people's trying to smear me. So I do believe God has a plan for me, and I think there's a reason why my role in society, it was given to me at this stage of life rather than earlier. If it was earlier, before I had a solid infrastructure of my sense of self, I would say the level of spotlight, it would be a curse, because I probably wouldn't handle it well. I would be negatively affected.
Before you ask this next question, this is really important. My mentor told me a couple of weeks ago, I was at an event, and he said purpose over popularity.
Hey, I wrote that down.
You wrote,
that was what I was going to talk about.
I'll show you mine.
Yeah.
If you show me yours, baby.
Okay.
I didn't see your notes. I'm looking at mine.
That's why I'm holding my notes away. He always steals my notes.
It's always my fault, baby. But wait, real quick. This is
calm
important.
down, guys. Calm down.
Now we're getting back to the before the show. But it's important, because what you're saying is you worked on your purpose in 2020. You weren't sure if it was going to work. You didn't care about the approval or the popularity. And if you strike on your purpose and you continue to work on it day after day after day, there will be people that resonate with you. And then all of a sudden the popularity ultimately ends up showing up if you continue along that journey. Now, what say you?
Well, I wanted to point out, JP, that I don't think you realize the impact you have on especially the younger crowd, because just to tell you, all my kids just think you're awesome. So they're kind of jealous that we're here and they're not, but that's too bad, because we have the podcast and they don't. And you are an influence to them, because why? Because you're you have courage. You're courageous. You go out there and you speak the truth. And a lot of people have a hard time because they want to be popular and they want to be, they just want to say what's kind to the world, and they want to just say what the world wants them to say. But you have the courage to stand up and do something different. And as a parent, we're all parents here. We are the kids' role models. I mean, they are learning directly from us. I don't think we realize sometimes the impact we have on the kids by just being brave and speaking the truth. And so thank you for that. That's huge.
You're welcome. I'll tell you, when I hear about kids liking to watch my content, that warms my heart more than any. I mean, I so appreciate when anybody watches my content, but when I'm out at the grocery store and people stop me and they share, JP, my kids love your stuff, that just warms my heart, because I mean, not to play favorites, but I think kids are the priority and they need positive influences. So I think that's amazing. I'm glad to hear that. And if there's any kids listening to this, if popularity is your goal, I'll tell you a couple things. One, get a better goal. But two, if popularity actually was the goal, I mean, one, you got to have a sense of purpose. What's the actual purpose? Because just going after popularity without purpose, you're on a rudderless ship. But if popularity was the goal, here's the cool thing that makes following your heart make sense, that makes saying your truth make sense, even though you could risk disapproval from some people. When you're being true to yourself, you are, and not just saying what you think people want you to say, when you're being true to yourself, you're exposing the surface area of who you actually are to the world. So people who are going to resonate with you, they have the opportunity to connect with who you actually are. Because you're speaking your truth, you're exposing the surface area of who you are to the world. And people are always going to be more magnetized to someone who's being authentic rather than someone who's in a fear-based mindset, just trying to say the right things. You're going to come across as boring, I guarantee it. Mm-hmm. But if you're hiding, I'm not going to say this because I'm afraid some might disapprove. You're covering up all the surface area of yourself. Therefore, people don't have the opportunity to connect with the one who you actually are. So it's kind of a popularity hack.
Yeah. And also, too, we're teaching kids don't do what you just said. And then people are missing out on you. Like the world is missing out on each one of us if we're holding back and just speaking what everyone else. We all have a mission, right? God put us on this earth for a specific mission. And I feel like a lot of young people are missing that because they're just going along with what people are telling them to think and do.
Julie, my mission right
Yeah.
now is, can I ask JP a business question? Do you mind if I go into ask just one business
Go
question?
for it.
Okay,
Yeah.
one.
Go for it.
Branding. I got this from a guest the other day, the definition. I just think it's amazing. Space that you occupy in the mind of the consumer. Let me say that again, Julia.
Okay.
The space that you occupy in the mind of a consumer. What is the Awaken with JP brand, and how did you build it? I mean, how did you get it off the ground? How did you start creating content, and how did you become this massive social media influencer online?
Yeah, man. I guess the Awaken with JP brand, it would be using the language of comedy to awaken people to protect, preserve, and celebrate the greatest God-given gift we'll ever be given, which is freedom.
And bam, like that one. Sorry about that.
Point underneath that, for that to happen, you got to follow your own critical thinking, follow your heart, and have the courage to do so. But how the brand was formed, I mean, man, it's just been a big happy accident.
Those are the best.
That wasn't the answer I was looking for. This podcast is a big happy accident. Yours, I thought you'd say, well, yeah, I got all these videos. I just had the idea. I got the
producer.
Big happy. We're all winging it, I guess, in life, right? And figuring it out, right?
Yeah. What was it? October 5th, 2014 was when I uploaded my first comedy video. So just barely over 9 years ago. When I uploaded that first one, I thought, this is going to be one stupid comedy video, but it woke something up inside of me. It's like, whoa, there's this creative satisfaction, and also using my natural sense of humor, actually letting that be expressed in creative ways. That woke something up. So after about a year of occasionally doing comedy videos, that's when I realized, I'm kind of tapped into something very sustainable here. And then how the brand has been built since then, I would say it's been built through a process I call Forrest Gumping my way along, where I don't really have a vision of where I'm going, what I'm trying to build, but I do my best to follow my heart. And I think the way most of our hearts work when we're following that instincts. By the way, I heard a great quote the other day. Follow your instincts. Sometimes your instincts will fail you, but they're the only thing that have ever led you right. So doing my best to follow my heart, follow my instincts. It knows okay, here's the next step. You do that. Okay, here's the next step without really knowing where you're going. So I call that Forrest Gumping my way along, because Forrest Gump, he's an archetype, not a guy who was driven by his intellect and here's my mental plan. He was literally too stupid to do that. His IQ was low enough, probably still higher than mine. But Forrest following his heart. Hey, Forrest, do you want to join the football team? Okay. He becomes an All-American football player. Forrest, do you want to join the army with you? Okay. Becomes a war hero. Starts a multi-million-dollar business. He has a kid with Jenny, who I think she was less than good to Forrest. I regret that for Forrest. So that's what I've been doing. And the other part of that equation is letting myself get uncomfortable. I think oftentimes our heart, our instincts, even our critical thinking on what's the next best step, where are we going, usually doesn't lead us deeper into the coffin of our comfort zone. It typically, our purpose, our contributions, therefore the brand that's built to fuel those things, they tend to lead outside of our comfort zone. So doing things that are uncomfortable to us, we have a sense of inspiration about it, but man, that's uncomfortable. When I started doing stand-up comedy, I'm dude, this is uncomfortable. So embracing the idea that what's uncomfortable to us that has a sense of purpose is usually good for us. What's comfortable for us is usually bad for us. Our minds would tell us the opposite story, but I think to form a brand, grow a brand, and fuel your purpose, we've got to make that switch in our mind, frame it. What's uncomfortable is going to be good for us. What's comfortable probably isn't going to be great for us.
Yeah, I have a question before you do.
I was just going to say, Chris Voss says it best. Awkwardness is an indication of learning. If you're not feeling awkward throughout the journey, then you're just sitting home, eating Cheetos on the couch and making fun of JP's videos and Julian Gino's videos. And that's great for you, but you ain't learning. You're either growing or you're regressing. And at that point, if you're not feeling awkward throughout, you're regressing.
That's true.
Hit me, baby.
You just mentioned home. I actually I really am curious about this. I have two questions. What is it like at home with your family? But the real question I really want to ask is, does your wife think you're funny?
No, she definitely doesn't. And I think she, have you heard of like the love languages?
Yes.
Like
we've had chat on the podcast
you
3
gotta
times.
Watch he comes on our podcast. He's like 85, the author. You really should watch it. You should watch the show.
I'd love to check that out. It's a great book. So
yes. You read it. You read the book. I give you credit for that. That's awesome.
No, I have the book. I haven't read it.
Okay.
I didn't either until I had to interview the guy.
Before you go, I had to start the podcast, have him on the show for him to read it.
Read the book.
So don't feel bad. You're getting there.
So I love that. So the reason why I bring up love language is, we all feel loved in different ways. Acts of service, physical touch, words of affirmation. We're all going to feel most loved through different avenues. So like love language, I think we all have different humor languages. So my wife happens to have a different humor language than me. I'm pretty satirical, and she doesn't think I'm very funny, and I'm glad, because that helps keep me humble. And I also know, like, hey, if I happen to actually make her laugh, which is rare, I know it was funny. Maybe that's going to be good content.
Is she embarrassed by your videos sometimes? Does she watch your videos? Does she see them?
Yeah, does she watch them? I hope so. I don't think she watches them all.
I have to ask, because my husband just did a video with a pirate outfit on. My kids were so embarrassed. They're like, what the heck,
opera.
Mom?
I'll do anything
what
for
is
a
Dad
sale.
doing? And they closed off the phone. They couldn't watch it. So it made me laugh to think about your family at home. They're probably horrified sometimes.
Yeah, probably teaching my son to dress up in women's swimsuits, walking through the house, filming videos. But I actually don't know if my wife is ever embarrassed. I can say two things. I hope she is, just kind of like passive aggressive, like, oh. But one thing I do know is she's very proud of me, very supportive. She knows the mission, she knows the purpose, and she knows like the courage it takes. So whether she thinks they're funny or is embarrassed, she is incredibly supportive and proud of me.
Well, just please say thank you from me, because I know what it means to be behind the scenes watching our husbands be out in the world and embarrass.
Right now?
I really don't. Please don't. Yeah, I'm good. No, it's okay.
I sang on the podcast. It was her birthday. I thought it was a cool thing. After the podcast, she hit me.
We got to talk about the love languages, because is that a love language for me to embarrass me?
I guess it is.
Maybe you could write that book, JP, the 5 humor languages. That's actually really good.
I'm going to get you in touch with Chapman.
Yeah.
That is a great. We're making money on the show.
That's the first thing I thought about it. Yes. I do have a business brain. Yes. I just want to tell you.
Is your wife like my wife? My wife wants you to work less, but then she'll come to you and go, I got this idea. I want you to do this. Oh, wait, you got to work less. I want you to work. Is your wife like that? Because that's what my wife is exactly like.
Similar. JP, I want you to work less, but hey, I want to remodel the house. That's going to cost a lot of money. So she basically wants more money, but me to work less.
Come on, you got to give us a pass. We have great ideas.
Last question before we wrap up the show. Where do you see the Awaken with JP brand in the next 3 to 5 years?
As someone who, I do my best to follow my heart in the moment without a clue of where I'm going. And by the way, whenever I have an idea of where I'm going or where I want to go, I find God's plan is usually way better. And I think that comes to us through following our hearts. So I don't have necessarily a crystallized vision on how things will literally look. But what I can tell you of where the brand is going in the next 5 to 10 years is, in whatever form, serving the mission of awakening humanity to their own critical thinking, their hearts, and cherishing freedom. that's the mission. So I see just that being amplified. Hopefully I'll be more effective with that. And then I'm relatively unattached in how that literal form takes. I love how things currently are. I'm doing videos, I'm doing stand-up, I've got a live show now on Rumble, and that's all great. If that never changed, if that's still the expression, great. But if there's surprises along the way, then hopefully I'm humble enough and courageous enough to listen. So I'll be curious how the next 5-10 years pan out.
I love that. I love that because you're following God's plan, which, like you said, is always better than our terrible plan at the time.
Tradition, baby.
Yes.
JP,
No, I love it.
where can the listeners, the hub all JP Sears, where can they get the book?
Yeah, I'll give you two hubs. You can get the book directly at bravebooks.com. And for all my other work, the hub for all the videos, the tour, the merch, all the things, you can find me at awakenwithjp.com.
Baby,
awesome.
can I?
Awesome. I just want to. I have a request. Do you have children's T-shirts?
Children's what?
T-shirts.
That's a good question. I know we did. I don't know if we still currently do.
Okay. I love it because my kids wear my kids' book. My kids' book. We have kids' books that I'll send to your child, but onesies and kids' T-shirts are super popular.
Onesies.
I would love those. Not a onesie because we don't have any more babies, but the T-shirts for the kids. Love them.
So can
I
wrap
love
up?
that. Now I'm curious because I know we did, but like I've got other people that.
You see what I'm saying? She's making you do more work. You're not even married to her, and she's already telling you to do more work. You see my pain? You see
I have
why we get into a
ideas.
fight
Coffee
before?
cups for the women that are home taking care of the children.
Gino, I will obey Julia just to try to make your life easier.
Thank you. In 2001, JP gets together with his mentor, Paul, and he has his first mini awakening. In October of 2014, he throws on his first YouTube video saying, that's a little awkward, but I don't know. I like this thing. In the spring of 2020, the awakening is in full bloom. He's saying, is this a pandemic? Or am I getting tricked here? Or my freedom's getting eroded? Is something going on here nefarious that I don't know about? Awakening humanity with critical thinking and following your heart. That's what the brand is all about. Getting into kids' books, getting into the hearts and minds of children, and also being a role model for us dads. We need strong father figures out there. And to me, that's what JP is. That's what I want. When I go on his channel, I watch his stuff. I'm like, this stuff is great. Chomp, chomp, chomp. Go out, buy the book. We want to thank you for being on. It's an honor and privilege to have you on here.
Any final words, JP?
I guess any final words,
Take
JP?
us out.
Man, final words. I would say life is too important to take seriously. And that's a quote from Oscar Wilde. And we're living in a time where there's a lot of serious stuff going on. And I do think it's important to let ourselves take things seriously. But when we only take things seriously, we're living in a fear-based mindset, which makes us feel a little safer, a little more secure, but it doesn't allow us to flourish. So remind ourselves, don't take everything too seriously. Let's do our best to also laugh once in a while, and even better, laugh at what we're also taking seriously. Because I think Oscar Wilde, life is too important to take seriously.
And start a podcast with your wife if you really want to laugh all the time and get into a little violence. Anyway, we want to thank JP Sears for being on the show. We'll see you next time on the Julian Gino Show. Thanks, everyone.